The story begins with a cold-faced, middle-aged man named Lucas. Lucas used to be a bouncer and worked as a bodyguard in South Africa. But after his wife died, Lucas couldn't stand living there and chose to move to Belgium with his beautiful daughter Sarah. In fact, Lucas faked their identities so that no one would know. In addition to becoming his father, Lucas also has to be a mother who prepares all the needs of her daughter. Although his face looks like a fierce old man, Lucas is still a good father for his only daughter. Lucas currently works as a security guard at a nightclub in Belgium. As a security guard, Lucas is responsible for securing mobsters who like to bring and make noise. Seeing the commotion, Lucas immediately pulled the mobster away from the crowd. The next day, the commotion happened again. Lucas immediately secured the mobster who was the source of the commotion. However, Lucas had no idea that it would be his last night working there. The mobster who caused the ruckus didn't accept being treated like that, and he tried to attack Lucas. Lucas dodged, which made the mobster fall and hit his head unconscious. Seeing this chaos, one of Lucas' friends asked Lucas to go home immediately and he would secure the man. The next day, his friend came back to see Lucas to tell him that he had been sacked. This made Lucas look very disappointed. How could he not? Lucas really needed the job to pay for his daughter's needs. A moment later, his friend told him there was a doorman vacancy at another club. Lucas's friend also asked Lucas to immediately apply to the club. Initially, Lucas was not interested in this offer, but considering his daughter's increasing school needs, Lucas felt he had no other choice to take the job. Long story short, Lucas finally went to the club referred to by his friend. Once there, Lucas met the club owner, Jan Deckers. Without further ado, Jan immediately took Lucas downstairs to meet other candidates. Jan also said that those who survive will be accepted, until suddenly, unexpectedly, a competitor tried to beat Lucas to a pulp. Lucas could barely stand up, but considering this was his last hope, Lucas immediately got up and attacked the remaining candidates. Not long after, Jan came to inspect the fight. Seeing Lucas who could beat the other candidates, Jan asked Lucas to start working on Friday. Shortly afterwards, Lucas returned home to treat the wound. However, Sarah had already seen the wound and was very sad that her father had been beaten. The father tried to calm his daughter down by telling her that he was fine. After being hired as a doorman at the club, Lucas was finally able to pay his daughter's outstanding school fees. Shortly after leaving the school, two policemen unexpectedly came to pick Lucas up in connection with his beating a few days ago. Shortly afterwards, the police brought Lucas to their superior, Maxim Zeruel. Maxim initially discussed the beating at the club some time ago and said that Lucas and his daughter's lives were currently in danger. That's because the person he beat was a child of the European Parliament. His father would not remain silent when he knew his son was beaten like that, even though Lucas did not touch him at all. Maxim also made an offer to Lucas. He can protect Lucas, but on one condition, which is to help him arrest a Dutch businessman. This businessman is known to have counterfeited a very large amount of money, so that this businessman is a fugitive target by 20 countries. Initially, Lucas did not understand the meaning and purpose of Maxim's words, and what the businessman's relationship was with him. It turned out that the businessman Maxim was referring to was none other than Jan, his new boss, who was the owner of the place where he worked. Of course, Lucas initially refused the request. However, Maxim threatens the safety of Lucas and his daughter. Long story short, Lucas started his first day at the club. At that moment, he saw a young woman who wanted to meet January. Lucas thought the woman was Jan's prostitute, but it wasn't. One of Jan's members named Geert approached the woman and said that Jan was not available. At the same time, Geert also asked Lucas to immediately take the girl named Lisa Zaccarini to his apartment. After the situation was safe enough, Lucas immediately told Maxim this incident, that there was an Italian woman who tried to meet January. But unfortunately, Maxim had absolutely no clue who the woman was. Apparently, Jan became suspicious of Lucas' behavior. While at work, he then asked Lucas to immediately get into his car. But suddenly, Jan, who was curious about Lucas' identity, took his mobile phone and found a number on it. Without lingering, Jan called the number. It turned out that the number was Lucas' daughter's number. Jan, who felt guilty, then asked his subordinate, Geert, to get out of the car immediately. He also asked Lucas to start the car and drive Lucas to his house. On the way, Jan asked Lucas about his background. Lucas told that he used to work as a bodyguard in South Africa. He returned to Belgium after his wife passed away. That is why not many people knew him in Belgium. Thanks to this incident, Jan finally found out where Lucas lived and the name of his daughter, Sarah. This incident apparently made Lucas start to worry about Sarah's safety. Lucas immediately called Maxim and said that he felt threatened. But Maxim didn't care about that. He even asked Lucas to spy on Lisa and what her relationship with Jan was. Not long after, Jan called Lucas and asked Lucas to pick up Lisa immediately. That's because he doesn't want anything bad to happen to his daughter. Lucas also took Sarah wherever he went. After that, Lisa asked Lucas to take her to the boulevard, and when they got there, Jan was waiting for them. Jan asked Lucas to come in immediately because the other Geert was waiting for him inside, and when he got inside and met Geert, he suddenly heard Sarah screaming. Lucas came out fastly and saw Jan, who had taken his daughter away from there. Lucas went back inside and threatened Geert to return his daughter immediately. But Geert warned Lucas if he was rude to him, it was the same as making his daughter not return at all. Having no other choice, Lucas finally obeyed all Geert's orders. Apparently, the reason Jan kicked Sarah was so that Lucas would obey his orders. Jan asked them to bring a man who made the best drugs in Europe. The reason Jan wanted this man was because a Dutch man had refused to cooperate with him, and he would accept Jan's offer if Jan could bring the man to him. Without lingering, Lucas immediately went to the drug maker's house. Lucas tried to sneak in and find the man's position. After wandering around for a while, Lucas finally could find him and immediately took him from there. And while trying to take the man, suddenly, this incident made the drug maker almost run away. But fortunately, Lucas could chase and catch him. After that, Lucas took him away from there. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Sarah was apparently with Lisa because her father did not come. Sarah also started to invite Lisa to talk. Here, Lisa asks about Sarah's family background. Sarah replied that her father used to work as her grandfather's bodyguard, and this is where her father and mother met. Because she had already offended her mother, Lisa then asked Sarah where her mother was now. Not long after, Lucas arrived and immediately took his daughter from Lisa's house. This incident made Lucas more vigilant and began to avoid meeting Maxim. However, Maxim threatened to return him to South Africa if he did not comply. As a result, Lucas had no other choice. That same night, Lucas went back to see January, and Jan apologized for the incident last night. His goal was to do this because it was difficult for him to find reliable people. Thanks to this incident, Jan began to fully trust Lucas. Hearing this, Lucas also asked Jan not to touch his daughter again. The next day, Lucas, Geert, and Lisa were asked to exchange the man they caught for the Dutch businessman. But when they arrived at the location, Lucas, who felt threatened, suddenly returned to the car and they immediately left there. However, the men followed them wherever they went. Eventually, Lucas and the two others tried to hide between other cars. However, their presence was discovered by the men. Seeing his lifeless colleague, Lucas immediately got out of the car and wanted revenge. When he looked inside the car, the people inside had also been shot dead. After a while, Lucas and Lisa finally went to see January. Seeing Lisa, who came home crying, he asked what happened. Jan immediately looked inside the car and found a dead Geert, but unfortunately Jan was not at all saddened by the death of his confidant. He was more concerned with the stuff they were carrying. Jan was even willing to burn the car with Geert to eliminate traces. Meanwhile, Jan's trust in Lucas is growing. He even opened his secret to Lucas. He and Lisa will print a large amount of fake money in the near future. Jan felt that he would really need Lucas' help, but Lucas thought that this would be a new threat to him and his daughter. So that his daughter would not be involved in this incident, Lucas immediately packed up all of Sarah's belongings. Then Lucas entrusted Sarah to his friend named Omar. Long story short, Lucas immediately met Lisa to run this. Arriving at the apartment, Lisa never opened the door, which made Lucas quite worried. Until finally Lucas broke into the entrance and looked for the woman's whereabouts. Apparently Lisa was locked up because she was still very sad about Geert's death. Lisa also said that she used to come from a poor family. Her father was just a simple printing owner in a remote area of Italy. After her father died, she and her mother's lives worsened due to debt. As a result, Lisa began to rack her brains, and she printed fake money to pay her father's debts. But this continues to bring her to this point. Lisa also asked what happened to Lucas' wife. Apparently, Lucas' wife died in a carjacking gone wrong. Hearing this, Lisa felt that Lucas was far more pathetic than she was. In the morning, Lucas drove Lisa to the warehouse where the counterfeit money was kept. Upon investigating of the warehouse's existence, Lucas immediately reported it to Maxim. Not long after, Maxim arrested Lisa. And after arresting Lisa, Maxim also went to the warehouse and checked the money. When they got there, all they found was an empty box, because Jan had managed to move it to another warehouse. Luke was rather surprised by this. He said their only hope of finding the money was to free Lisa. Maxim immediately took Lucas to see Lisa and asked Lisa to cooperate with them. At first, Lisa was a bit shocked and did not expect Lucas to do something like that. Lucas calmed Lisa down and asked her to work together to catch Jan Deckers, and Lucas will guarantee the woman's safety. After that, Lucas returned to his house and saw Jan, who was already there. At first, Lucas thought that his undercover had been blown, but apparently Jan suspected someone else and invited Lucas to kill that person. Not accepting that he was accused of being a traitor, the bald man accused Lisa and Lucas of betraying him. Because he already trusted the two, Jan ignored the man's words, and suddenly the man was shot to death. The next day, Lisa was released, and Jan forced her to print fake money again. After many times failing, Lisa finally succeeded in printing counterfeit money as detailed as possible. To appreciate Lucas's hard work so far, Jan also gave him a reward and asked to buy toys for his daughter. But suddenly, the warehouse was surrounded by the police. Seeing Lucas no shocked with this incident made Jan finally realize that Lucas was the mastermind behind all this, until suddenly Jan shot Lucas right in the chest. After that, Maxim shot Jan right in the throat until he died. Apparently, Maxim's goal of ordering Lucas was not to thwart the printing of the fake money, but to control the fake money alone. But unfortunately, Lucas was not an easy man to defeat. And when Maxim approached him, Lucas suddenly kicked Maxim's legs until he fell. Lucas then choked Maxim, then beat him until he couldn't fight anymore. Not long after, Lucas came out and finished off Maxim's remaining men. After the death of these people, Lucas intended to take Lisa away. But unfortunately, Lisa could not be saved because she was shot by Maxim before. Finally, a bloodied Lucas got into the car and suddenly his mobile phone rang. Lucas picked up the mobile phone. The call was apparently from Sarah, who was worried about her father. Along with the conversation between the father and his daughter, the movie ended.